Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to FX Maniac. Again, this is Syed Mahmoud Amiri and welcome to a very cool 3D Studio Max tutorial. As you've seen in the beginning of this video, I'll be showing you guys how to create a really awesome peeling effect using Tyflow. Isn't that cool? It looks really cool, and the thing is, it's actually pretty simple to set up. I've just, like rendered out a few different shots from a few different angles, added some good music, and hopefully it looks good. I think it looks good. So I don't know about you guys. So the one thing that I want to point out before going to the tutorial is that it doesn't have to be necessarily a soda can. It can be a human, it can be a car, a building, a helicopter, or whatever. So I'm just going to show you guys another quick example. Like if I create like a teapot, the standard big old teapot inside of 3ds Max, and I'm just going to move this up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Tyflow and just maybe beforehand we give it some segments so that we don't have to but you can, in this case we don't need a shell, or even you can add it. Let's see how it looks. So I'm just going to the birth objects and I'm just going to delete that part, and I'm just going to add the teapot. So I'm just going to wait for a few seconds. So let's see how it looks. Alright, so now you can see that our actual teapot is turned into that, is actually peeling off, which is looking really cool. So it doesn't have to be like necessarily, and it has the texture of the soda can, but that doesn't matter. So it just shows how versatile this effect is, and you can basically select any object and just peel it off. So that's the thing. That's what I wanted to mention before going to the tutorial. So let's get straight to the point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my 3D Studio Max scene. I've downloaded this model online. It's free, and they have a couple of different textures. And by the way, if you don't want to download it, or for some reason don't have access to downloading it or whatever, you can go into my YouTube channel, which is FX Maniac, which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to my channel and keep up with my latest upcoming tutorials. I have a 3-part series of tutorials on how to model, texture, and light a soda can inside of Maya. So if you want to go there, go check it out, model it, and then bring it inside of 3D Studio Max. Alright, so let's see here. I'm going to go back here, and yeah, here's our startup scene. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. So Control V and make sure it is a copy and not an instance. The difference is, like, if you get it an instance, whatever changes you bring to one, it'll basically update for both of them. But then if you copy, it'll be a different object. So in this case, copy, and this is going to be our Tyflow object. So we're going to take our Tyflow object and add a shell to it. So go to modifiers, shell, and 0.3 centimeters, which, by the way, I'm using centimeters. If you go to customize unit setup, make sure it is centimeter, and then system unit, 1 unit is 1 centimeter. Okay, so we've basically added a bit of a thickness to that upper sort of cover of the object, and then we can select the other one, the bottom one, or if I just take this and move it away, you can see here's the one. So it's called the middle part. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up my Tyflow. So I'll go to create panel, create a Tyflow, which if you have downloaded, if you haven't downloaded yet, you can go ahead and download it. It's free. It's in the beta version currently, so you can go ahead and download it. And I'm just going to go into my Tyflow, open the editor, and let's see here. Let's take a breath. It's not like we're running towards something, we're creating something, right? So just do it Normal, chill. Okay. I'm just going to drink some water. Alright, so now this is gonna be fun. Alright, so the first thing is I'm going to turn this object into a Tyflow particle. So you're gonna add a birth objects, or you can just simply drag it from here or hit tab to bring it up. So just here. And the next thing I'm going to do is just pick this object, and here we have it, and then I'm going to hide that main object that we've just applied the shell to. So just hide selection. Now we have our Tyflow object, so here it is. And now what I'm going to do is if I hit F4, you can see that it's looking like that. So in order to give it and convert it into these pieces, we need to sort of subdivide this mesh to be able to get it and peel it and get that detail in the cloth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a subdivide modifier to it. Subdivide. Just going to subdivide into smaller pieces, and you can go lower. The lower you go, the more detail we're going to have, but of course the more time it's going to take. So in my original example I've used like 2 centimeters, I believe, but in this case I'm just going to set it to 3. And then the next thing we're going to do is we need to fracture these faces. So there's a cool operator called the face fracture, which is basically if you go here to the fracture face fracture, it gives you a description here. The face fracture allows you to fracture the particle mesh faces, which is pretty self-explanatory. So you can go ahead and increase the number of polygons, maybe like 50, just like that. Triangles or polygons. In this case I'm just going to set it to polygons. Alright, so now we need to, if I want to show you guys visually how this thing is working, this face fracture, I'm just going to put it below the subdivide. I'm just going to add a scale modifier. So just add a scale, put it here. If I scale this down, you can see that they're fracturing into these little into these pieces, which by the way they are looking pretty big right now, and that's because we don't have enough subdivisions. So if I turn this down to 2, we're going to have a lot more pieces, and then if we increase the number of faces, of course we're going to have a lot more pieces to deal with, right? So the lower you go, the more detailed of an object you're going to have, but the more time it's going to take for it to kind of simulate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at 2 for now, at 2.5 maybe, just for the sake of the tutorial, and make it like what, 50, 51, whatever. And I just added the scale modifier to kind of like visualize the pieces, right? So these are going to be the pieces flying around, when we actually simulate this. So just turn this off. So the next thing I'm going to do is turn them into cloth. So if I go here and add a tab cloth bind operator, and then I'm just going to put it down. And the thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and make sure it is below the subdivide and the face fracture. Going to display. Or we don't need to go to display, just turn this off and you can see it, right? So right now if I play this, nothing seems to be happening because we don't have any force. So what I'm going to do is if I just add a force and put it like below everything, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a gravity, like -0.1. So now you can see that it is falling down. And if I add some turbulence, maybe like 0.3, so now if I play this, you can see that these pieces are actually flying around into, like, I don't know, into a lot of different random and weird sort of motions. So to fix this, we don't want it to be like this, of course. We don't want it to be like this. And we can go into the cloth bind and add a bit of a shell to the surface, maybe like not 0.01, maybe 0.04, just a little bit. Even that is a little too much, so 0.01, just to give it some thickness, you know. And maybe the wind is a little too much, but we don't want it to move like this. We want to use an object to be able to, you know, to kind of activate it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into 3D Studio Max again, and I'm going to turn off the force, or actually just move it out here, and I'm gonna be using a particle physics or particle switch, sorry, just add a particle switch, and we want them to be deactivated, right? So deactivate binding, so it's basically going to deactivate all the cloth binds, and we are going to be using an object like a sphere. If you go to the front view, create that, and this object is going to act as an activator for the cloth pieces. So wherever this object goes, it's going to activate the pieces. So I'm just going to move it here and just hit N and go to like what, 70 frames. And if it is calculating, you make sure you can hit escape, but in this case it's fine. So just move it up like this till wherever you want. You can have multiple activators, but in this case I think this is fine. So what I'm going to do is go back to Tyflow and add a surface test. So it's basically testing based on a surface. It's like if these particles are within this surface or this sphere, I want them to do something. So it's a test. So I want them to go into this other event and just link it here. So those are going to be activated. So right now you can see that they are actually activating, but they're activating in a very weird sort of way, so which I don't like. It's looking very terrible, but we're going to fix that. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we've deactivated these bindings, right? So the other thing that we need to do is actually we need to activate them again. So we're going to add another particle switch. Alright, so just put it here and just go back. If it is calculating, hit escape and go to the first frame, particle switch, and make sure that we have activated all the bindings. And we want them to collide with the object below it. So if I turn off this, we have this object, right? So I'm going to add a collision and pick this object, and it's going to collide with that. So I'm actually going to turn this on again and enable the flow. Enable, right? So now if I play this, what it's going to do is whenever this object touches that, it's going to activate all the bindings. Alright, so I'm just going to pause the recording while it goes. Alright, so our Tyflow is processing, and until that is done, if you haven't subscribed to our music channel yet, so here is our channel, Audio Aura. So we provide high quality, royalty free, no copyright music for your video, cinematic, background musics, motivational music, relaxing music, whatever type of music that you need. We're producing the highest quality ones, and you can use them for whatever you want. And this is our new channel, so if you want to support me, make sure to subscribe to our new channel and you know, share it with your friends. And also make sure to follow my works in my Instagram page. It's called Effects with Sayed. So here's my photo, and just follow me there, and you know, like it if you like it, you know. So let's go back to 3D Max. Alright, so we're back, and this took some time. I don't know why, but maybe because of the screen recording. But as you can see, it is actually activating. If I even like take this object and go into object properties and display as box. So you can see it's activating pretty well. And again, to recap, the thing that was not working is that like we've deactivated all the bindings, and then when these particles actually come inside this sphere surface, then they're going to be activate all the bindings, and then it's going to collide with the original mesh. So that's why it's sticking to it, and it's actually peeling off of it, and some pieces are actually sticking to it. And the reason we're having these sort of shapes, these triangles, is that because we have less number of subdivisions and less number of polygons in our face fracture. So the more you add it, the more detail it's going to be. And our force is here, so we have a bit of gravity and some turbulence. And if I go into Premiere Pro, I've actually taken some Thai previews of this, so you can see that how it is working. And I have like a slow version of that, and that is when I have just turned on the the timer, the retimer actually. So if you go to retimer, I've enabled it, and I've enabled it by speed, so maybe it's like 20% of the speed. So in my original example, if I show you guys, alright, so here's my original example. You can see that we have the same things, but I just have a lot more polygons and more subdivisions. And then I have the turbulence, you can see, and I have a little bit of a wind in the X direction, so that's what's pushing them to the side. So as you see here in the render, it's pushing them to the side. And the next thing is that I've actually applied, so if I go here, let me show you first the slow-mo thing. So if I go to my original example, if I go to retimer by speed, and I've actually taken this to like 40% of the original speed, so it's going to be slower. Alright, and then once the simulation is done, you can go ahead and select your Tyflow, and I've used the V-Ray render engine, so just go and set this to V-Ray and just close this. Hit M to create a material, and I'm not going to show you the lighting and the material part. If you want, I can do it in a separate tutorial, but it's pretty simple. If I go ahead and take this object and pick the material of it, so we have the texture, right? So what I'm going to do is just we don't want that on that back object. We want it to be on the Tyflow object, and then we're going to select the object that is actually behind, which is this. I'm actually going to give it like a chrome material, so just go to V-Ray, apply that, and just make it like what? Just increase this up, make it black or just dark gray, and give it a lot of reflection, actually 100%, and then just give it a lot of glossiness. So something like that, just apply it to that material. Alright, maybe a little bit just like that. So we have this sort of reflective material, behind it. So you can see that it's kind of reflecting. It's like that chrome or aluminum part of that bottle or that can. So yeah, we've just created that material, and then for the lighting, I've just added a few simple lights, like three lights actually from the sides, and I have 3 cameras because I've taken 3 different shots, and I have a very big backdrop and a seamless background. And in this case, I went to the Tyflow, and I wanted these pieces to actually collide with the ground, so you can see that they are actually colliding with the ground. You can't see it really here, but they are colliding. So what I did was I went here to my if I go to my original scene, and we have a ground, right? So if I go and create a ground plane just like this maybe, and going to Tyflow, and on that second event in the collision, just add that plane too, so and then they're going to collide with it. So that's basically like the whole setup. And let's see here if we have missed anything else. Nothing else, just added that material, that chrome material, to the bottom and the top of this can. And here is our result basically. So if I go here, you can see that it is updating, and the more detail and the more subdivisions you have, the more realistic it's going to look, but of course the more time it's going to take. So, and then I've just taken a few like camera shots, and then composited, do some color correction, and added some motion blur in After Effects. That's it basically. So that is basically it, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. And if you did, make sure to go to my YouTube channel, Effects Maniac, and subscribe, and make sure to like the video, because that's what's going to recommend it to other people, and share it with your friends so it can reach out to as many people as possible, and that would mean a lot to me. And I'm trying to make more tutorials consistently for you guys, so hope you guys enjoy it. And you know, as always, just make sure to subscribe to our second channel, Audio Aura, and to my Instagram page. Alright, so this was today's tutorial. Until next time, enjoy working.